Hey guys, it's Coach Edwards, lacrossegoalietips.com and lacrossegoalieuniversity.com. And I got to start off with an apology because this week I lost an email from one of our goalies in Switzerland, which I was pretty excited about. I love hearing from these guys. This is Dominic. Dominic, hello. And his question was like this. I wrote you an email about a year ago. We are growing fast in Switzerland, which is awesome. You helped me a lot with the bounce balls. Thank you for that. My team is founding a women's lacrosse team right now. So they asked me if I could coach the women's goalie. I've taught her all the basics and developed her stick skills. Unfortunately, she has some problems which I can't solve. She always asks me how I can see where the shots go. For men's lacrosse, I can explain that, but for women, I can't. I tried to practice with the team and saved some balls, but the shooting techniques for the women are still unclear to me. Could you give me some tips on how she can guess where the shot goes? Greetings from Switzerland, Dominic. Dominic, first off, the English is amazing. Like, this guy's first language is not English, and he writes better than some of the high school kids that are writing me. That's a lesson, okay, right there. I'm just saying that right now. By the way, I don't answer questions from goalies who can't spell, check, or write correctly. I just want you to know. All right, so this is a great question. So Dominic, you're on to actually something pretty interesting here. And that is what I talk about, like a goalie is developing their shot library, their understanding of that technique. And because women have the flat pocket, or flat compared to the men's pocket, the release point is different. So when you hopped in the cage, when Dominic hopped in the cage to play with the girls, which is something that I've done in the past, it's kind of confusing because the release point where the ball comes out of the stick is different. Now, the interesting thing for women's goalies is that what's great is that the shot technique doesn't really change much from young goalies to older goalies. I was watching Northwestern play Louisville, women's lacrosse, Kelly Monty, who I went to high school with, one of the greatest female lacrosse players and coaches of all time. You know, what's interesting is that those collegiate players, they're just bigger, faster, stronger than their high school counterparts. So the shot, the technique is the same, but just the pace in which it comes is faster, right? So when Dominic hopped in the cage, that technique is completely different. That's where, like, when girls play with the boys, I don't really recommend that. The shot technique, the shot speed is high. However, the release point is completely different, right? Because of the offset heads and pockets with lips in them, completely different. So outside of a women's goalie getting shot on by the men and getting like a faster velocity of shot, that's cool. But what happens before the ball leaves the stick is drastically different, okay? So the only way to solve this, Dominic, is by having her take shots in practice and having the players tell her where the ball is going to go. So when I coach a team, I'll tell my kids, everybody's shooting stick side high. Or I might say, everybody's shooting in the top half of the cage, or everybody's shooting in the lower half of the cage. That way my goalie can relax a little bit and focus more on the shot coming at them. Right? And then, because what they're doing subconsciously is they're seeing all of the stuff that's happening before the ball leaves the stick. So any type of technique talk where a coach says, oh, you should just focus on the ball. Like I've done that, where you're just focusing on that little tiny piece of rubber in all this stuff that's going on, like the stick, the jerseys, the helmets, the background. You're focusing on this little tiny dot up there. Well, you're missing all of what I call the tells, right? The tells prior to the shot being made, all right? Some goalies, young goalies, get confused by all that, trying to figure that out. And they end up guessing where the ball's gonna go and they make mistakes. That's okay. When a coach tells them you shouldn't do that, you're actually cutting off the learning that can happen for a goalie, because basically what they're learning is they're learning how to pick up, read all that stuff. You know, I grew up in Massachusetts, and back in the day, Massachusetts lacrosse players had a bit of a bad rap where they had no wrists, right? Like basically they pushed the ball a lot. And I attribute this to the fact that back then, guys didn't really know how to string sticks too well. Traditional sticks, like with leather mesh, still quite popular, bad pockets. So I went to Maryland to go play in some camps. I went to upstate New York to play, to get around players who had really good technique, really good hands, and had wrists, because the technique was totally different. So the good news here for your women's goalies is that once they get it, they're going to get it. But it happens by you in practice shooting with a women's stick. Hopefully you're shooting with a women's stick and not your men's stick. you're shooting with a women's stick so they can develop that understanding of, oh, this is what a shot looks like when it's going to off stick hip or stick side high. This is what the hands do. This is what the wrist, this is what the player looks like, because all that data gets stored up here and makes them better long term. Okay, so great question, Dominic. Good luck with your women's goalies in Switzerland. Love to hear that the game's growing over there. Maybe you guys can bring me over for a visit. And my China goalies too. Just throwing it out there. It's Coach Edwards, lacrossegoalietips.com. Thanks for your question, Dominic. If you got a question for me, email me. Get on one of the free teleseminars coming up this month and check out the homepage for the free teleseminar button. Click on that, get registered, submit a question. I'll try to answer it on the teleseminar. But yeah, this is great. It's been a great 2015. I appreciate you being around. And by all means, leave me a comment below, share it, pin it, tweet it, like it, Google Plus it. I'd appreciate it. Talk to you real soon. Cheers.